G16 Sport, new platform for Speedway fans. Hundreds of videos, the latest action on demand and free to view. Plus, the Speedway show, Dishing the Dirt. Check out the pay-per-view section for upcoming live streams. Browse Speedway merch and other awesome items in the online shop. Join G16 Nation. Scroll through your newsfeed, post photos and videos, join groups and connect with the Dirt community. Visit g16sports.co.nz today.
Here we go. Has he got to get him up the inside? Oh, what a... Has he got it? Has he got it? Hold it. Oh, has he got it? A bit of a gappy. I think he'll come home nice and easy now. Look at that. This will be good. Right up the inside, kids are holding the outside, dude up the inside, here we go, does he hold the line? He's not giving up as well, oh, he's giving himself a bit of a push through there. Looks like he's about to have a go, a push, look at him go, oh, he's going to get him up the inside. Love it, hold it up there. Can Devil get it? Oh, he clipped the wall, oh, woo, give it the hoot, Nanny. That car looks sharp, doesn't it, people?
Hey, welcome along. Good to have your company back here on this Wednesday after taking a week off last week. We are back as Cockpit Media, myself, Reno Wilkinson, Kinser Online, and joining me down in the beautiful Hawke's Bay and Napier's Craig Booker. How you going, Booker?
Hey, I'm pretty good, Reno. Pretty good, Kins, mate. It's been an interesting week, and we had an interesting Sunday night of racing, didn't we? With the E-Series, round 5, South Island Champs. Yeah, it was a very interesting meeting to watch, that one. I've had a few people come and say they couldn't believe it, you know. So that was pretty good. Good feedback we had on it, mate, and a good result, eh?
Yeah, totally good result there as well. We had the big South Island Champs down at Woodford Glen, and a good bunch of online races turned up, like you say, Sunday night. You did the great commentary, but of course we had to have a winner overall take away the championship, and there was Richie Nicola, MMJ.
Yeah, he did. He did win it, didn't he? Or was it Dude? Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
So Steve Emmett come in second.
A firm grip on his overall series lead too, at the moment. So that's good. It was made for some good racing. There was some good racing there actually at the Glen. It was good to see. Next week will be tight, that's for sure, at the Wanganui. So Wanganui with the saloon cars should be a very, very interesting meeting. I'd say people want to tune in for that. You're bound to see some carnage on that one. But
yep.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, the build-up starts 8:15 this Sunday, so we'll get into turn 1, 2 is going to be very, very interesting. No different to the tight turn at the Glen last week, and I seem to enjoy myself in the feature after running home and bringing the T&M car home to win that one. But it was all about having fun. Good to have the guys back out there after a couple of weeks off due to so many other events. I just want to send a big shout out going out to Richard and Trudy Aldridge, Kyle Carpendale, also Scott Honeybone, Luke Wyatt, Tyson Wooten, Dave Thomas, our viewers already in there watching. So welcome along. We are Cockpit Media, 7:30 every Wednesday. We catch up and we have a chat with motorsport drivers of all racing, actually, background, whether it be Speedway or out there on the tarmac, the asphalt. And I tell you what, we've had some big guests over our show we've been running for the past few months, especially this year, 2022. We've had some great names on motorsport.
Absolutely, mate, and it just gets more exciting, doesn't it, with our guests tonight? That's for sure. Hey, listen, I just want to quickly say a few things to some out there. Our show, we like to keep it as family orientated as possible. Of course, Kins, as you know. So if a guest or something over the time accidentally bleeps or whatever, we apologise. But what I am concerned about is sometimes we put a post up, there's some people with their comments are a bit on the nose. So if you're going to comment, please try and keep it family friendly. We want you all to comment and join us. But, my mic level's low. Thank you, Kin. There we go. I'll turn that up a bit. And so just watch your comments. If you're going to be idiots and comment between your mates, go do that on your Facebook not on ours, because it's family, all ages,
Yep.
and we want to respect everybody that comes in and sees it. We don't want to be doing it. So, and yeah, so that's what I wanted to say there, mate. Oh, no, you can't say mate now, can you? So according to the news last night, mate's offensive. Hey?
It's all good, mate. It's
Hey.
no problems at all, you know.
Haven't got teammates anymore. You got team persons.
Oh, who knows? Just
I
bloody
think we're getting a
PC
bit
gone
crazy
mad.
on this politically correct stuff, actually, to be
Oh,
honest.
yeah, it is, mate. PC gone mad, mate. PC's
when
gone
you can't
mad.
use mate anymore, isn't it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But we won't get into that too much, because that's not what we're here about tonight. We're here to talk to Paul Radisich. I'm excited, as mate. I remember sitting there watching this guy through the V8s, the touring cars, everything. You know, it's I got mates. I go to houses now. They've still got his cars on the shelves, little die-cast cars and stuff. You know, it's awesome. So. Yeah. Hey, Kerry Remnant's even joined in tonight too there, Kins, I just saw. And Richie.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. They're saying a big hey as well. Modi Goodley as well. Evening. Good to have you. Ryan Herndale, Rusty as well. So good to have that. Scott Honeyboat, yes, we've been in touch with Murph. So just keep an eye on the show. Just keep it locked on a Wednesday. Yeah. So we will have Murph. We will have Murph on the show. So we'll see what happens if we goes to
Don't say we will, kids. We've got to make sure we can get him first.
Yeah, I'll get him. We'll get him, mate. We'll get him. He can't turn us down, because we've got this guest who joins us right now.
He's setting the bar
everyone
high.
will be jumping out to join us. So, yeah, I like setting the bar high. So, there you go, Murph. There you go, Giz.
Okay,
McLaughlin, you better bloody join us.
Well, let's get me out of here and bring him in, because the fans aren't here to see me, mate. They're here to see you and Paul. Okay?
All right, mate. Thanks, Box.
I'll bring him in, buddy. Here we go.
All right, cheers. Here we go. And there he is. Hey, Paul, how
Hey.
you go, mate?
Good, thank you, Reno. Thanks for the invite. Lovely to be with you all.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I do thank you too, because it was a last minute thing kind of organise, but I do appreciate you, because you're such a busy man. You've got back to Auckland, to home there, and I do appreciate and thank you for taking your time out to join us here on Cockpit Media, Paul.
No, pleasure, Reno.
Awesome. All right, the logo says it all. Tell us a bit about it. Let's get that out of the way before we talk the motorsport, the nice looking logo. Tell us all about it, mate.
Well, it's it started 40 years ago. My dad and I went to Turua, and it was an oil refinery back then. It was recycling oils, and it had been closed down. And as a family, we bought the business, and I worked the Auckland side of it. Frank was in the plant, made the oil, and it sort of grew and grew and grew. And then sort of 5 years in, because I was motor racing as well while I was doing that, and I had a big offer from Europe, and I sort of disappeared for 25 years, and then when I come back, Frank had built up a sizable business, and when I retired, I took over the reins, and that's what I'm doing today.
Awesome, mate. Hey, thank you for that as well. And the good thing about this too, where I'm based, I'm in a little town known for a big bottle. We're in Pyro, and he's based with his business and the work. It's like only 10, 50 minutes up the road. So that's why he's joined us. I could catch up with him later on if he turned me down.
I figured if I didn't come, you'd come knocking on the door. So
I would have turned up with the camera, me and Craig. Here we go, here he is. He can't get away. No, I wouldn't do that to you, mate. Look, you've got so many fans, and I thank each and one of you who have joined the show. Dave Thomas, Tracy Vincent, everyone's calling you, hey, Rat, Richie Neekorder, we spoke about him, made mention of winning our online series last Sunday, taking the South Island champs. So, Rat, you are a champion, mate. Had to put the word in there, mate. Hey, I think PC is going a bit nuts at the moment with these words, isn't it?
Well, nothing wrong with mate, is there?
No.
We've, particularly when I saw my career out, I mean, that every second word was mate. So I'm happy to use it.
Well, exactly. Once you raced over in Australia, you had no opportunity because everything was g'day, mate. G'day, mate. How you going, mate? Let's get into your racing career as a young man. Where did this all start? Is it in the blood? Is it in the genes? Or how did you get involved? Did you go along with mum, dad, family? What was the deal, mate?
Look, very much family orientated. Dad, Formula 5000 driver, saloon car driver, garage.
Wow.
The whole family has been involved in cars. We either make them, built them, fixed them, crashed them. The whole family, we're all car nuts, So I really didn't have too many other opportunities. I was always going to go I was either going to do one of those 5 things, but
Yeah.
you know, and it was really, you know, the family and sisters, brother, and you know, Robin and Frank that were behind me all the way. And when I showed a little bit of promise, they were right there, you know, like glue. And you know, you can pretty much go through the history of pretty much most of the people involved in motorsport and family is 9 times out of 10 is been the drive
Mm.
behind it. So you know, I was no different to anyone else. So I'd sort of, my path was a little bit different.
Mhm.
I started with motorbikes. So I was
Oh, wow.
motocross juniors, and then worked my way up into the, you know, the 125 and 250 classes
Yes,
as
yes, yes.
I didn't get much bigger, but I got older. And so I learned my craft there, and then, you know, it was come a time where I really wanted to go car racing, and I remember talking to Frank about it, and you know,
Yeah.
he was, well, you know, is it a good thing? What would you like? You know, do you really want to do it? And I said, yeah, I really want to do it. And it only took one conversation, and
Yeah.
you know, we went out and well, we went straight into Formula Atlantic at that particular time. Keeping in mind that I'd done probably a decade of racing
Wow.
prior to going car racing.
Wow.
Um, so we started in saloons,
Yep.
and then I showed some promise there, and then the next thing I found myself with Dave McMillan in the New Zealand
Wow.
Grand Prix with one of his older uh, single-seater cars.
Yeah, yeah.
And at, I think 18, I qualified for the New Zealand Grand Prix, but unfortunately, it didn't. We didn't make the start. The thing let a
Mm.
run a bearing in the time after practice, and we didn't get to start. But that's pretty much how it all started. And then, you know, once again, family. We went to Australia
Yeah.
and did more racing there, and then you know, family went broke trying to support me. And then, you know, it was sort of like, well, we've got to cut ties here. And if you're going to do it, you've got to find sponsors to do it.
Yes.
So, you know, so the process began. And man, was it a long process, you
Yeah,
know,
totally.
from,
And and
from
and it's a lot of work put in, not by yourself, but all the family. And I want to go back to where you talked about the two wheels for a little while there, then into four wheels. But you make mention a lot of family. Just to let viewers that are watching online, and there's a few questions I will ask you throughout the show. Family is so important and an integral part of many people in sports these days. You know, it's what drives them. Yes, financial issues do come to be part of it, and it's only going to get worse since we've been through this pandemic of the recent 24 months or so. But family is a massive part of sport.
very much, yeah. You know, I don't think it matters if it's motor racing or
Mm.
rugby or soccer or tennis or whatever. You know, it's the family support is a big thing, and
Yeah.
you know, I was just lucky enough to be able to have it. We're not saying that if you don't have the family support,
Yeah.
you can't do it, but it definitely does make it easier. You know, it's a large load can be shared many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you know, I think, what is it, family, friends, you need, how do
Yes.
you, because people say to me, well, how do you get started? You know, it's like join a car club,
Yep.
it's go-karts, get into go. There's no doubt that go-karts now is a great training
Yes.
resource. Online is now
Mm.
you know, the
Yeah.
new resource. So man, if I could have my time again, I'd be on a simulator every 5 minutes of the day. You know,
Really?
just, yeah, I would. And I've got a
Really?
simulator at home. I jump on it occasionally. You know, it's just, I find it very relaxing,
All
and
right.
it's something that you know, I've been doing for so long, but it's such a great tool. So
Yep.
you know, it's how do you do your homework? Well, that's how you do it. You know, and then car club, go kart club, get racing, and then it's friends and family. Find them. You know, at the end of the day, it costs money to go motor racing.
Mm.
Whatever you're going to do, be it tires or cars or whatever you need, you do
Yeah.
need money. So
Yeah.
you need, you know,
Exactly.
you got to get out there and you got to find people that are prepared to help. And it's a bit like you asking me tonight, you know, will you come on the show? I mean, you asked me, you know,
Yeah.
so there's a good lesson there. You know, if you don't ask, you never get.
Exactly, and that's why I say thank you at the start of the show for taking time out to join us. And I know you touched on your sim, you still got it. Look, what are you racing on your sim at the moment? Because I'm going to open the door, the opportunity for you to come and have a drive with us at Cockpit Online Racing. What are you currently racing when you get that spare time to jump on your sim?
Well,
The V8s and stuff?
well, no, I tend to go single seaters, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But I race him.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
sweet, done. We'll get that all sorted. I've got Alcin to one who's asked a question here. Has
mm.
Frank still got the Toyota Supra?
Yes, he has. He has, and still has the Mazda RX-2 as well. So I've got quite a collection of cars. I've got the two single seaters that I won the New Zealand Grand Prix with. One a Route, one a Swift. So I've still got them today. We've got various other cars
Awesome.
hanging around, as you do.
Have you got
Mm.
a museum or something going on, have you? Because most people I've spoken to always tend to want to do a museum. I've spoken to many drivers over the years gone by. They've kind of gone back and got the original car they were successful in, whatever that may have been. They kind of hunt it down and get it back.
Mm,
You ever
mm.
thought of doing a museum for yourself?
No, but I'm going to send a few cars over to Mike Ross's
Okay.
museum just out of Cambridge.
Yep.
And no, I haven't. No, I haven't
No,
thought
okay.
about museum. And it's kind of shame because they are sitting. No one sees them, so we're tidying them up at the moment. And we'll get them on display over at Mike's place very
Awesome.
shortly.
Awesome. Warren Fraser. Warren, thank you for jumping on the show. And he's got a quick question, and he knows we speak Speedway. We spoke to Speedway people. You know what this is heading to. Would you ever race Speedway, Paul? Would you ever done Speedway? Or have you done Speedway?
Something. Um, when I when I was racing motorbikes, first of all, I wanted to be a speedway rider.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I remember going down to the pits and standing next to Ivan Major,
Oh,
and those, I was
wow.
like, well, this is what I've got to do. But
Mm.
somehow, and then I did motocross, and somehow it just sort of slipped away. I'm not too sure why, but I never had what. Yeah, I love speedway. What have I think if I didn't go circuit racing and then spent 30 years running around the world, I probably if I spent more time in New Zealand,
Mhm.
something I probably would have done midgets or something like that. And my last experience with it was at Western Springs in a stock in the modifieds, and
Yes.
I ended upside down on the roof. So maybe I would have created more entertainment like I did on the racetrack.
Yeah. Well, talking of races and everyone out there doing it, that's what you are. You are entertainers because you get the fans, and the fans are such an important part of following many drivers' careers of past through to now. The fans just mean so much, and they would have enjoyed Moshe in some sense you rolling over there at Western Springs. You wouldn't have enjoyed it, mate, because there was a car you'd borrowed, and the poor owner would have been sitting there. But that's motorsport. But the fans mean so much.
Yeah, they do, and it's a big, when I was racing in Europe, and Nigel Mansell came back, and he
Mm.
was my teammate
Wow.
at Donington, and the fan. I mean, he won the world championship, and he won the IndyCar championship. So people hadn't seen him for a couple of years and hadn't celebrated his victories, and I mean, there was 150,000 people turned up at Donington to see him, and I believe me, I think he signed autographs for everybody. So, it really, I mean, that's the extreme side of it. But without the fans, the atmosphere is not there. The interest is not there. So, they play a big part in our sport.
Totally agree with you 100% as well. So heaps going on there. I've got a couple of questions I will ask, but later on, this is Bad Thirst related, so just hang in there with us, mate. We get questions here, there, and everywhere. Paul Collins, thank you, Paul, for jumping in and watching the show. Still one of the best. Yeah, he is, actually, and it is a privilege for me to be speaking to him because I grew up watching motorsport over decades, and definitely through the 80s. We're going to talk about his career in British touring cars, and of course, the V8s will come out throughout the show, but please just keep your questions coming coming in. Make sure they're all family friendly as such as well, and we'll pick and choose what we're going to ask. Nathan Addis, you've been loyal to simulation for a long while, Paul. Really, simulation? You love it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nathan set up. Firstly, Paul Collins, happy birthday, mate.
Oh, nice.
25 today, he is.
Oh, nice.
Doesn't look a day over 35.
So, is he for real, Nathan, around the whole simulation thing? So, how often do you jump on your sim?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, Nathan, no, when I can, and not as much as I would like. And Nathan has been a big help to get. He knows the simulator I've got, and he's set it all up. So he's a wizard with electronics, and particularly with the hypersims.
Wow, making me jealous just listening to you talk all about that. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's asking all these simulator questions. Could you let it out the bag? And no pun intended to let the rat out of the bag as such. Everyone's talking about, look, Brad Pierce. Brad Pierce says you're a true legend, mate. And you're right, to have Paul talking to us on our show at a last minute as well, and just been unbelievable. Dave Thomas, he lives down the road in Matamata, raced with alongside Tiger Wood at a meeting at Huntley in the stock car. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Hey, thanks for jumping in there, Brad. And thanks for the kind words, buddy. That's really nice. The Huntley, that was a disaster. That was a disaster as well. Stock cars, forget about it. Look, it was fun. It was fun, but I'll tell you what. When I hit the concrete wall, and believe me, I've hit a lot of things, but hitting that concrete wall, and you know who pushed me into the concrete wall?
Go on, you're going to tell me. No, I don't.
You mentioned his name before.
Oh, Tiger.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, no, he did. There's a rule in stock cars that if you're injured, when cars are coming at you, you put your arm out the window. And you go like that.
Yeah.
It's like, and he'd hit me so hard that it had fractured a rib.
Oh, hell.
And then I saw this other car coming for me. I thought, oh my God, this is where it's all going to end. Huntley Speedway. But luckily he saw my arm at the time and went away. But and then Tiger came back to me afterwards and he said, "Oh mate, I'm so sorry." I said, "Yeah, right, you are." So anyway,
did you go and have a game of golf or anything later on?
No, well, Steve Williams, Steve Williams, as you would know, organised the whole thing. So and they were pretty much. I forget if they played golf like he would race cars, then the whole world is in trouble.
Right, not many people have the chance to race alongside, one of the greats of the game of golf. And you saw him at the Masters about a month or so back there playing. And to be talking to you, to have raced alongside him and many other superstars, that's a few years gone back. That's a few haircuts gone back as well. So well done on that reply to all those little questions around Tiger. But stock cars, you got to love it. Tracy Vincent, would you have a go in the sprint car if you had the opportunity?
Look, I'd have a go. I have a go in anything. Probably not so much today, but in my time, I'd drive anything. Would drive anything, and I think it's very hard. It's very hard to say no, and I find that particularly when it comes to cars and a lot of things, particularly around the motor racing, it's like as probably. Greg Murphy's probably experiencing it's like fantastic. We're going to have another go at it, and then it's like, gee, reality's coming to the point when you hop in the car. Gee, I actually have to do this. So, but hey, he'll be up for the challenge, and I think it's brilliant that he's going to go back and have another go.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about that too, what you've been doing. Are you still jumping behind the wheel and in the racing? Let's get into the 80s and talk about your drive here. I see Formula Atlantic runner-up. You've done a fair bit in the 80s, 85, 86, the British Formula 3. Some good times in the 80s, mid to late 80s.
Yeah, they were sort of starting. I was sort of, what would I be, 20 or something in that,
Yeah,
18, 19, 20, that sort of era. So I think if I remember rightly, I started about 83, somewhere around
yes,
82,
yeah.
83. They were, talk about family. There was Dad building the engines, Dad preparing the car, Paul going home early to go to sleep. Dad, have you finished it yet? Is it done
Yeah.
yet? So all those things. So very exciting times, and it sort of escalated quite quickly. So it sort of started in New Zealand, and then also it started at finish, and David Oxton was the man to beat at that particular time in the 80s. He was a New Zealand champion and the guy to beat. And we went to Bay Park for my second race,
Okay.
and I was leading David Oxton. I think only for about half a dozen laps, but I think it sort of showed people that were interested that there was some talent there.
Mm.
And then from there it sort of went to Australia, and got involved with Ralt Australia, and
Mm.
it sort of just, and then came back and did the racing back here, and it just sort of I just kept at it, and then that one thing led me to another, and then it led me to America, and then
Wow.
and then I've managed to, through a group of motor racing enthusiasts, and it was partly to do with David Oxton,
Mm-hmm.
Rob Whitehouse, and Andrew Bagnall, people like that, which were very influential and still are.
Wow. Wow.
Managed to put a group of put some finance together so I could
Yep.
go and do Formula 3. And I went there. I went to Formula 3 in '84. So I'm in trouble remembering myself.
Yeah, 84,
Yeah,
85, 86, and you raced
yeah,
alongside
yeah.
Damon Hill as well. Damon Hill, there's a name.
Yeah. And 84, and I had the first race at Thruxton, I had pole position for Formula 3, and that was the year Senna and Brundle would come out of Formula 3. And Formula 3 was if you did well in Formula 3, you were going to Formula 1. So, I sort of hit the ground running, but unfortunately, after about 5 rounds, we're running from Murray Taylor, who's a Kiwi, running Formula 3, and we ran out of money, and Murray ran me as long as he could on fresh air, and we had to call it quits. And then I came back. We put this package together 2 years later, and I was teammate once again with Murray Taylor Racing with
Yes.
Damon Hill. Dave and I had some great times, and
Yeah, I bet you did.
as a sort of a young nobody, other than his dad, of course, who we all know.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So we spent the year together. I had enough money to do a year. Didn't really work out. Second was my best position. Or second, podium. Third at Snetterton, and so success wasn't. We really didn't have any success. The Reynards were the car to have. We had a Ralt. All those things that probably you look back in hindsight and you go, gee, well, I wouldn't do that, like you do when you look backwards, But I think at that particular time we're just happy to get back to Europe and back to the UK and try and pick up and work on that single seater career towards Formula One.
Awesome. Hey, let's get into this now, the 90s, and you made mention of this. Let's talk about the European side of things. The Ford Mondeo, for all the Ford fans that are watching and wanting to listen to us talk about the Mondeo and everything they did in the 90s. And, that's where a lot of us got familiar with the British Touring Car Championship and everything like that back in those days. And there's some great names that we can remember. And I know some of those will be shared in a little chat. But, mate, true legend to be over there, representing New Zealand. That is just unbelievable.
Look, it really was unbelievable because it was, it's, once again, it sort of, it come down to a time. There was a chap in Cambridge, Bob Donaldson, which a lot of you may already know. Bob, brilliant guy. He was trying to put together a package to do Indy Lights. And we were getting very, remember, this is a couple of years working away at trying to do Indy Lights. And and all of a sudden I got a phone call out of the blue from a Australian, Alan Gow. And Alan Gow was the reason I know Alan was one, he sponsored me when I was racing for Route Australia in a small way. And secondly, he was managing Peter Brock when I drove for Peter Brock. And Alan had gone and moved to the UK and worked with a guy called Andy Rouse.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, and I'd met Andy because Andy come down and raced at Bathurst when I was racing with Brock. Talk about the stars aligned. So, and when Alan went there, and of course the name of who should we have as a second driver, because Andy Rouse was the Peter Brock of the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes.
He's a 7-time British champion, and what he hasn't achieved is not worth talking about. So he ran his own taxi. He got the Ford project. Then it was like, well, who should we get in the second seat? Obviously someone cheap. Someone cheap and someone slow. So Andy said, Radisich, let's put him in the car. Actually, he didn't say that. Alan said, why don't you use Radisich? That kid down in New Zealand. So so it was like, and then Alan rang me and he said, Paul, I've put this deal together for you to come over. You're a works driver. I said, well, Alan, I'm in the middle of putting this Indy Lights program together. I've been on it 2 years. And he said to me, are you a beep idiot? He just said, if you're not here, our friendship is finished. So, and a few other words, other Australian words that go along with that, like you silly Kiwi, so anyway. So that's how that all sort of came about. So I got there expecting that I'd be doing the practice and would be into the first round, which was, I think, March or April. But it didn't quite happen like that. Andy decided that he was trying to develop a 4-wheel drive Mondeo. And in his head, that was the way to go. And it possibly might have been, but it took Audi a hell of a long time to get there. But so we missed, I think, 5 rounds of 10-round championship or something. Eventually Ford said, look, Andy, you got to come out and race something. You can't, just because the 4-wheel drive was too slow. It was too heavy, too many driving parts. It was just too slow. So overnight, Andy pulled out all his drawings, I think, from the Toyota Carina from the year before and said, okay, front-wheel drive, let's make it front-wheel drive. So we had no testing. We've been hanging around for 3 months watching everyone else go round and round and round. So and he got his car together like pretty much the week before the race in Wales. And he did a little bit of testing and it was pretty quick. And of course, okay, Paul, here you go, here's your car. Well, I'd never driven a front-wheel drive car in my life, not even a rental car, I don't think. So I said, Andy, how do you drive a front-wheel drive car? And he said, you'll be right. So luckily I was. So I started, I don't know, 15th and worked my way through to about 7th in the first round. So it was a great learning curve. And then from there on, we just kept developing the car. And then, halfway through the season, I won the first race, and we went to, I tell you, one of the best races I've had was a British Grand Prix.
Yes.
And I qualified 3rd, and we're just prior to the Grand Prix, so everyone's, and the touring cars were publicised through BBC, so it was like everybody in the street knew who the drivers were and what touring cars were. It was, and because the racing was like the first time anybody had seen stock car racing on circuit. We were just out of control. There were no rules or regulations.
No, exactly.
Like, if you make it through the corner and you take somebody with you, it's just a shame they're in the way. So British Grand Prix, so there I was, lined up third. So I got Winkelhock on one side and Soper on the other, and go through the who's and who's of touring cars. Anyway, we get going in the race, and all of a sudden, because this is really the first race that I've been somewhere up the front, and of course, the boys were out to teach me a lesson, and so I had a whole race of just hitting people. It was ridiculous, but I stood my ground, and at the end of it, I was initiated into the club, so to speak. Everybody tested me. Yeah, but brilliant. I only finished third,
but it's a great memory you can still share with us today, all those years gone later. See, you got an introduction to stock cars back in the 80s. You just didn't, the 90s and the 90s, you just didn't know it. And I'm just looking at some of the information here, Alain Menu, just to name one, Gabriel Tarquini. Here are some of these names. You see the Winkelhock, some big names that you've raced alongside and made mention earlier on with the formula, alongside with the likes of Damon Hill. Just a question here for you from Richie Neekorder. What's your most enjoyable race?
Oh, Richie, always the ones you win, I have to say, but they are the most enjoyable. But look, there's, of late, running with the Collins boys in the Mustang, in the Mark Mustang, just sheer enjoyment. Every lap is it's nice to be able to do something that it sort of gets back to grassroots, where why did you start doing it? Because you enjoyed it, not because you have to and you've got to get the results and you've got all the got-tos in the world. It's just sheer enjoyment. So of late, and Paul, and thank you for allowing me to drive your car, because it's a very powerful car. It's a sports car, and it's so of late, that if we go back into the early days, I would have to say the Mondeo era. Was one. It kept touring car racing captured the world. It just, the interest for it. It didn't matter. I mean, my weekly schedule for there was testing. So I'd be racing at a weekend. Straight after the weekend, I'd be going somewhere in Europe to test one of the other Ford Mondeos for one of the other teams. So you've got to remember that Andy built 20 Mondeos, and they went all around the world. So down to Australia, throughout Europe, America. So I was, when I wasn't racing, I was somewhere in the world testing these cars, or I was doing a race. And of course, the publicity that British touring cars got around the world was huge. I mean, going to South Africa and, it didn't matter where you went, people knew your name. And it was quite, it just, I think it just captured the imagination. And that particular time, it was probably the most exciting racing that was televised, and Formula One was I think a little bit, they were going through a bit of a growing stage. So it was they were great days. They really were.
Totally, they were good days. Look, I remember playing the first PlayStation when it came out, and on the disc we had the cars you're talking about, the BTCC Masters, I think it was, back in the day. So that's how good it was. We used to race the big names, and your name was part of that as well. Here's a question from Alison Tiwani. What makes New Zealand motorsport drivers so good throughout the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if we look at our road driving, we would have to say we're probably one of the worst as far as road driving goes. But motor racing driving, I think it's dedication, the will to succeed, and we're not coming from a supportive. We're all leaving home. We have to make our own contacts. We have to work hard at everything. I think we just work harder than everybody else. I don't. We're not as far as talent. I mean, there's lots of talent all around the world, but for the small capita of personnel, people in this country, we bat way above our
We do.
station. And I think, I mean, we are a nation of mad cars. We've all got all three of them, haven't we?
Well, this rolls into my next thing from Paul Collins. It's a memory. I remember being in a XUI, is it? With the rat back on the streets. This is Henderson Day. XU1, yeah. XU1. And Henderson, you are no older than 14. You remember that?
I sure do. I wrote that car off. I just can't remember if Paul was in the back seat or not.
Henderson, him sitting on the cushion, no older than 14. So yeah, back streets of Henderson. So you're a bloody hoon back in your young days.
I was actually, something. Even though in those days my dad was the biggest hoon of all, because he would take his Formula 5000. We had a garage in the middle of Henderson. It was the only 24-hour service station, in the area. So everybody used to migrate to the garage. So he would drive the car from the centre of Henderson up Corbins Hill, down Lincoln Road, onto the Northwestern Motorway, and go 150, 60 mile an hour up one end, turn around the top, come down the other. But he always had permission from the police. They always used to sit up on the bridge. I'll tell you what, you couldn't do that.
No, hell no. Toga was the game. Toga, then Toga 2, PS1 as well. Codemasters brought out the rally games we're talking about. So yeah, back in the day, I knew someone would help me out there. I kind of knew what happened. Hey, I know you've had a wonderful time in the 80s, 90s and everything like that, and you've just shared some of that and the fun times as a youngster with your mates hooning around here and there, and there is always happened. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Jason Cowan says, mate, you're a great human, and the accolades that have been coming in through all the comments so far has just been amazing, which is great to share this with you. And I do thank you once again for, at a last minute joining us on our show here on Cockpit Media. We're a Cockpit Media show live on Facebook, and we're on every Wednesday at 7:30. We're also an online racing community, and we'll be racing out of Ocean View Speedway, I think it's called, down in Wanganui. So that's the E series of our Super Saloon. It will build up at around 8:15 Sunday, racing at 8:30. And we're also live on YouTube as well. So if you've got family friends who don't use the Facebook, well, they can connect on to the YouTube. Going into the V8 supercars, I know people want to ask about Kiwi Motorsport, everything, all of that stuff, the whole deal, TKR and everything. But a Bathurst question, and I know Garage 16, who are awesome guys, Aaron and Vince, caught up with them a couple of weeks ago down in Palmerston. If you had to describe Bathurst in one sentence.
Well, for me, it's the one that got away.
I like that answer. Love it.
Yeah, I went there 21 times, still couldn't get it was, my time to win that was 2000, 2001. I went the first year, I went there with Bill Bryce in the second class in a BMW, and we finished second in class there. But the next time I came back with Jeff Allen in a Sierra. And that was the year that anybody could jump in the car. You could have 10 drivers in there if you want. But Dick and John Bowe were the lead contenders, of course, and their car blew up. And Jeff Allen and I were sharing the day. So we actually managed to get to the car to lead the race. And we were leading the race. And we come in for the last stop, and Dick wanted to get in the car. That's fine, no drama there. I think if Dick had, what actually happened is the runner jammed on the seat on the seat, and he couldn't push it back. And by the time he decided that he couldn't get in and it was all too late, and then they threw me back in the car, and we went to the end. Was the amount that we lost the race by.
Yeah.
But I think, if people say to me, you're disappointed with that, well, of course. But, I think if Dick had have got in the car at that particular time, I think we would have, because he knew the cars so well, we would have won that. But I can say that with three other times, I finished runner-up. So,
wow.
great. I mean, it's brilliant. It's one of the greatest tracks of the world to drive on. I think when you get it right, and I don't think you ever get it right because it's so long, and I think when you go around, you think I think you can go through there a bit faster. So you never get it really 100%, but the satisfaction of when you get it pretty close, it's a great feeling.
You think back in the day, and you made some big names. You mentioned some big names that we all associate, especially with the Aussie V8 supercars back in the era. And there's some great names you just see there: Dickie Johnson, John Bauer. You also made reference to the late Peter Brock. Mate,
Yes.
you have raced alongside some amazing drivers there. A lot of Kiwis and Aussies, but especially I'll talk about Kiwis. Just, adore watching the V8s because of those kind of household legend names. You spoke about names that fans knew when you did your touring stuff and all of this. Nelson Piquet and so forth. Those are, mate, I'm buzzing now sitting there looking at you and talking to you in your race with these names. It's like, holy hell.
I know. Look, and I mean, people like Dick and Peter,
Yeah.
it wasn't just driving with them, it was involved with them for the season, and they're being at their house, out for dinner, all those things that you do as part of family, so there was always, and even going back as far, the people I've shared with, that experience there with Damon Hill over 12 months, and even Denny Holm and I shared when I was, first starting out, we shared a car at Pukekohe, and and Denny went back to Denny's place, and down at Rodawiti, and there's lots of great memories, really good, and to drive alongside those guys, I learned so much. I remember I actually learned a lot just watching them. I remember it in Wellington, particularly when we did the street race there, and I was driving with Tony Longhurst in the Sierra, and Peter. Wellington's a flat track, and then Peter went past me. I was giving him room, but he went past me around this corner. Literally, the car was on two wheels, and and I thought, wow, that's how you got to drive these cars. So I did, and it felt great, So, and I learned, I learned something from everybody, even if it was just being around them.
When you think, you talked Bathurst just beforehand and the cars you've raced around there, and now you look at today's racing and how fast technology has made a big part of this and how the aerodynamics have worked on cars. Would you have ever thought back then they'd be doing the lap times around that great track, one of the best tracks in the world, and they were getting there just over the 2-minute mark now? They're getting low. It's just developed and changed over decades.
Yeah, look at the cars have got safer. They've got technologies moved in there, even though they've sort of streamlined the cars so they're all pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But who would have thought? I thought when Murph did his lap of 206,
Yeah.
somewhere around there, it was like, how the hell did you do that? I'm pretty sure Greg didn't know either, to be honest. But it all just sort of fell into place. But and that when I think he was about a second or two faster than anybody.
Yes.
The average time was 2:08. To do it 2:06, it's like unbelievable. Yes, the track's been resurfaced. Things have evolved and the cars have got faster. But to be doing 2-minute twos, I think.
2s, 3s, yeah.
So it keeps going in that direction. They'll be knocking on the 2-minute mark, and not too distant future.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know if the Aussies are loving it, mate. Obviously, they would have enjoyed it back in your time, the Aussies dominating their sport as such. But now when you got a Kiwi like you've got Gizzy at the moment, who's dominated just about everything, to be honest with you, I think everyone's racing who's going to be second now or third, I would say. But, Scotty Mack, Scotty Mack was good in his time while he was there. Now he's across in America doing the Indy stuff. These Kiwi sports drivers, particularly in the V8 supercars, they've just come through like nothing.
Yeah, that they have. I mean, it's it was interesting. They've got we've got the best seats in supercar, and they're all gone to Kiwi. So
Mm.
that's a real feather in the cap, because with motor racing, you've got to have the equipment, you've got to have the car, you've got to have the team, and if you don't, you can luck in occasionally. But I mean, someone like the Giz, I mean, I always, people ask me, why do you think he's so good? Well, one, he can drive anything. He's a talent.
Yes.
He's just a great talent, and he's got a great understanding of not only how to drive a race, but also how to get the best out of the cars. So he's very intelligent when it comes to that. So he understands telemetry, he understands what he's looking at, and then he can put it into practice. But what he has over and above that is in these cars, he's a big guy.
Yes.
And I believe he can. And I always found I get 3/4 of the way through the race, and regardless of the amount of training I did, I would start, legs would get sore, and arm would get sore, or something would get sore, and you ease off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think he's able, with the strength that he has, and he can just push his way through. And as he starts, he can finish as long as the tyres are underneath him.
He's away.
So you put all that together. I'm not saying that one thing is better than another, but you put it all together, and no one can see where it's going.
No, exactly. Got a winning combination all in one. Scott Honeybone, thank you. 2 minutes, 3 seconds, 367. Thanks for the clarification on there. So that's where things are. Team Kiwi Racing, mate. Let's get into this TKR, the introduction of Team Kiwi into this BA thing. When you take a look at the early years of the 2000s, this was just huge for our country here in New Zealand. It was massive.
And it was great to be. It really was great to be part of it. I remember discussions with David, and I said to him, look, if we're going to get involved, you really got to step this program up, and and obviously finances were always tight, but I tell you what, he beavered away in the background like you can't believe, and if you could put a saddle on David John, and direct him, you'd have yourself a secret weapon. But he worked day and night to get the money together. We put a deal together with Paul Morris.
Yes.
And we come out really strong. Like we're quickest qualifier at Adelaide. Like the first half of the season was looking really good, and then unfortunately the inevitable happened. We run out of money, and David couldn't keep things going, and it sort of fell away from that point. And then of course we had the accident at Bathurst. Which didn't help the whole program at all. So not just one of those things. Unfortunately, when I was passing a slower car, and the left wheel hit the rear of the car in front. I think it just moved literally just grazed it, but it broke a steering arm. And where the car went off, it literally just went. It didn't change. It just went straight into a solid tire, not a tire bank, but a solid earth bank, and because it just ruined everything, including the driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone remembers that. But thank you for going through with that part as well. And I remember Shanghai, we got on the podium and everything like that in China. So there were some good times there.
Yeah, there was some very good. There were some good times there, and it had all the ingredients to be really good. It's just one ingredient didn't quite gel.
Yeah, that's right. Do you think it will ever eventuate again? Do you think the possible future, someone here in New Zealand or a group of people or a syndicate of people could possibly launch something from New Zealand back into that series over in Australia?
Well, we got involved with Tony Lentino with the Super Black Racing in mid 2015, 14. And Heimgartner was the driver.
Yes.
And he was just learning the craft. So So Tony put everything behind that program to try and nurture young talent into supercars, but nobody really wanted to help support it.
Okay, fair enough. What
So
about
to
young? What
answer
about
that,
yeah?
I'd like to say yes, but what I've sort of found is that it's fine. We have to nurture young talent to get through. Otherwise, we're not going to have any more. It's going to be harder for the drivers to get through, but without the support, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Talking of young talent, there's an abundance. We see them out there on the go-karts. These young names, Liam Lawson's in, just to name a few. There's just so many out there, whether racing the E-Series or racing their own series. This young talent we have off crop here in New Zealand, it's just amazing.
Yep, it is. It is. The boys we've got out there at the moment, they've all been at it a fair while now, and they've been able to learn the craft here and then venture off overseas, and that's the way it has to happen. And unfortunately, but we provide the start. And I think with what we've got overseas, from Indy cars to Formula 2, hopefully one of those, Armstrong or Lawson,
Yeah,
will have the opportunity to go to Formula 1. That's our
definitely.
closest. Both of those kids are capable of it. They just got to get that last little break
Yeah,
to. Yeah, and some of the drivers have to retire. So all the stars have got to align for that to happen. But we've got two guys there straight away that could both,
Awesome.
be
Yeah.
in Formula 1.
Well, Scott Honeybone just said SVG, Gizzy, started at TKR, so there you go. So I knew he would
That's
know all
right.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. Scott's actually asked a good question because it's just come out recently too, all over social media and the news. What does Paul think of Walkinshaw and Andretti United going to the Mustang next season? I know Scott is just amped about this one.
Well, they've finally seen the light, huh?
Yeah. There you go. There's a pretty sharp answer for you. They've seen
Yeah.
the light, Did you ever drive a Holden to be? Yeah, of course you did. Yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
really
I
did.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I
What
had
do you
to just
prefer? Okay, I'll put you on the spot here. Which one do you prefer then? The Ford or the Holden?
look. I'm an ambassador for Ford, and
Yeah,
always have been. And yeah, I'm a Ford. I'm a Ford driver. I'm a Ford.
yeah.
That's my logo. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Now, what are you doing? You mentioned a little while ago, a couple of seconds ago, retirement. What is Paul doing himself? Are you in a wheel, behind a wheel? What's this deal? What's happening there?
Well, as I mentioned before, we've done a few races over the last 18 months with Paul Collins and the
Yes.
Collins teams. Sam as the driver, and so I fill in as the co-driver for our events, and I've loved every moment of it. So we did my last race with the boys a couple of weekends ago, and we finished on the podium. So I think that was a fitting way to end it all.
You ever thought of doing rally? Rally? I think someone asked the question earlier
I
on.
think of anything.
You give it a go, eh?
Yeah. No, not anymore. No.
Yeah.
I think I'll stay to I can put the e-racing on.
Here you go, mate. I tell you, the door's open here, Coppet Racing. We'll get you sorted and we'll go do some sort
Yeah,
of racing together.
you
Let's go and
guys
have
can show
some
me the
fun.
way.
Yeah, we'll show you the way, mate. You could show us the way as well. So, it's just unbelievable. And you are right around some of the things that have been incorporated in the new modern era, especially with sim racing, where the guys, as an example, the Formula One guys had never tried the new Melbourne track. So the closest thing they had to it was going onto a simulator and getting used to it, because COVID prevented some of them getting over to countries, and COVID's just buggered everything up. So we'll leave it at that note. I don't want to get into that whole political talk with you at the moment. But, the future does look bright here in New Zealand. It's a country for motorsports. It looks bright.
Yeah, look, and look, it's been that way. Motorsport New Zealand are doing their best to, let's face it, the last couple of years have been pretty horrible. So,
Yeah.
coming to the end of all that, and things can get back to normal. And, I know there's Motorsport New Zealand have got lots of things happening, and, I think we'll see motorsport have a resurgence again, out of that will come the next crop of, Liam Lawsons and Hartleys and, Evans and all the kids that have got in play at the moment, because it's a lot of hard work, but if you can crack it, it's something that if you're interested in racing, you can make a career at it.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Hey, and I just want to send a big shout out and thank you for Jason for saying this. Be sure to follow Collins Motorsport. We'll share some of this up on the Cockpit Media page as well, so we'll put their links in there. So make sure you give them a follow, and you can keep in touch with how everyone's going on there as well. Just for Aaron Lewis, who's just jumped in, I know you said this right at the start when we got into the show. The company, how did you get involved? Just a short brief of how you got involved with the logo on your T-shirt again.
Aegis Oil. It's family business. Family.
Yeah.
My dad. Unfortunately, my dad passed away in September last year. So it's a family business. He started it. We blend automotive lubricants. So anything oil related, be it for cars, boats, planes, motor racing cars, whatever. That's what we do. We blend lubricants. So think of whatever you want to think of, Castrol,
all of it.
all of it. We're local. We're the only local brand in New Zealand that is producing New Zealand-made oil.
All right, check out the website as well. We'll share some of that a bit later on. I'll pretty well say what Jason said here. You're from a world champ to king of lube. I'll leave it at that. There you go. That's what Jason said. Mate, supercars may not be coming to New Zealand this year, the supercars. I know the big rally series is at the end of the year because we had Emma Gilmore on a couple of weeks back and Hayden Paddon, but supercars not coming to New Zealand.
It's on the schedule, but like everything, there's bound to be complications. So I hope it does. I hope they can work it all out, and I'm sure there's something ugly called funding in there somewhere, which would be unusual. But let's hope it does come, because let's face it, it puts on the biggest sporting event, 2-day event that New Zealand has.
Exactly.
So we need it here, and if it doesn't make it this year, I'm sure it'll be back in the future.
Totally right. I totally agree with you 100%. We all love motorsports, and for all those fans who've been sharing comments throughout the chat, I do thank you very much for being part of this. Paul, I do want to say thank you once again. I know it was late notice, but you filled in the gap, and it's been a wonderful hour talking to you, my friend. It's been a pleasure, and I do thank you on behalf of the viewers and the people who type in questions, Cockpit Media, for taking time out of your busy schedule on a Wednesday evening to join us, and I appreciate your time. True ambassador, motorsport legend here in New Zealand, mate. Thank you.
Pleasure, and thank you for all the listeners that came on, and the questions. I really appreciate it, and
I'll pop into Tura, mate. Call in. We'll have a cup of tea or coffee together and have a bit of a chat.
Pop that, anytime.
All right, mate. Thanks, Paul. Cheers. Thank you very much, eh?
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye. There we go. The man himself, known as the Rat, Paul Radisich. It was awesome to have a quick chat with him about the inside of a career where he started as a youngster, whether or not he was ripping up with his mates up there in Henderson, getting in trouble, most probably, but also to the two wheels, and then into his career through the 80s, 90s, and four wheels in the 2000s as well. I tell you what, he is a true ambassador, and it is a pleasure to have someone of his caliber join us on the show. When you think of some of those names that he rattled off during the little interview, mate, there are some big names there, and I tell you what, I do appreciate his time, and it's a massive thank you to him. Yeah, motorsports rock. He is. You talk about rock and you talk about legends. That guy is a true legend of our motorsports. And to anyone who wants to get on board and see how things are rolling out there, make sure you keep in touch as well with them. Collins Motorsport. We are Cockpit Media. That is our show done for tonight. We are back on Sunday, 8:15, the build-up for our E-Series Super Saloons. We'll get Paul a race with some series sometime soon, but I do appreciate it. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we will catch you back Sunday. I'll be racing with the boys at the Super Saloons at the Ocean View track, Wanganui. But otherwise, take care. Thank you. Appreciate everything, and all the best. See you later. Bye-bye.
G16 Sport, a new platform for Speedway fans. Hundreds of videos, the latest action on demand and free to view. Plus, the Speedway show, Dishing the Dirt. Check out the pay-per-view section for upcoming live streams. Browse Speedway merch and other awesome items in the online shop. Join G16 Nation. Scroll through your newsfeed, post photos and videos, join groups and connect with the Dirt community. Visit g16sport.co.nz today.
Here we go. Has he got to get him up the inside? Oh, what a... Has he got it? Has he got it? Hold it. Oh, has he got it? A bit of a gapping. I think he'll come home nice and easy now. Look at that. This will be good. Right up the inside. Kids are holding the outside. Dude up the inside. Here we go. Does he hold the line? He's not giving up as well. Oh, he's giving himself a bit of a push through there. Looks like he's about to have a go at push. Look at him go. Oh, he's going to get him up the inside. Love it. Hold it up there. Can Devil get it? Oh, he clipped the wall. Oh, woo. Give it. Give it the hoot, Nanny. That car looked sharp, doesn't it, people?